Good morning and welcome to this formal meeting of the Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Rob Kendrick and I'm Chairman of the committee. Welcome to all members and officers present today, and in particular I'd like to warmly welcome Councillor Robert Reid, who is our new Vice Chairman, and Councillor Debbie Armiger, who is the new Labour Group Leader, to their first meeting of the committee. As usual, the video feed of this meeting is being broadcast live via the County Council website, and I'd also like to welcome members of the press and public who are watching our meeting online today. As the meeting is being streamed in the usual way, I would like to remind you all that your comments will remain accessible online and can be reported by the media. Welcome also to the following senior officers from Children's Services: Heather Sandy, Executive Director, Children's Services; Linda Dennett, Assistant Director, Children's Health and Commissioning; Tara Jones, Assistant Director, Children's Safeguarding; Sarah Nardone, Assistant Director, Sector-Led Improvement; and Martin Smith, Assistant Director, Children's Education. Councillor Mrs Bradwell hopefully will be joining us shortly. She's been delayed on her way into the meeting. And I'd also like to welcome her Executive Support Councillor, Councillor Stephen Rowe, for attending the meeting today. I'd like to begin with the usual health and safety announcement. There's no fire drill planned this morning. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, we need to leave the council chamber through the rear doors and leave the building through the reception into the front car park. We then need to wait there for further instructions. Can I please remind everyone to ensure their mobiles and other devices are on silent mode? Also, when invited to speak, can you please ensure you switch your microphone on? Otherwise, those attending the meeting via Teams and online will not be able to hear you. And please be aware you need to speak directly into the microphone to be heard. If you wish to speak during the meeting, can you please raise your hand and my Vice Chairman, Councillor Reid, will make a note. So without further delay, let's move on to the business on today's agenda. Item 1 is apologies for absence and replacement members. Jess, do we have any apologies?
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillor Nutman, Councillor Bradwell, Councillor Cleaver, who is being replaced by Councillor Dilks for this meeting, Martin Cowell, the Church Representative, and Joe Kavanagh, the Assistant Director for Early Help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is declarations of members' interests. Members of the committee are reminded that they only need to declare any relevant interests which have not been declared on their declaration of pecuniary interest forms. Do any members wish to declare an interest? No? Okay, we'll move on. Item 3 is minutes of the Children and Young People Scrutiny meeting held on the 19th of April 2024. And this is to confirm and sign the minutes from the meeting of the committee held on the 19th of April, as set out on pages 5 to 12 as a correct record. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Whittington, and a seconder, Councillor Sear. Thank you very much. We will now vote on the minutes, and you are voting whether you agree that the minutes are a correct record. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. Any against? And abstentions?
I was absent.
Yeah, 3 abstentions. Thank you very much. That's the minutes agreed. Thank you. We move on to item 4, which is announcements by the Chairman, Executive Councillors and Chief Officers. Kicking off with my announcements, on behalf of the committee, I would like to thank Councillor William Gray for being the committee's Vice Chairman for the past 3 years and wish him well in his new role as Vice Chairman of the County Council. And I'm sure you'll have a great year. The term of office of one of the committee's parent governor's representatives, Mrs Megan Machin, ended on the 30th of May this year, and an election to find a new parent governor representative will take place in the new school year. And just to make everyone aware, I'm intending to have our customary 10-minute comfort break before item 7 today. We now move on to Executive Councillor announcements, and Councillor Mrs Bradwell has just joined us. Do you have any announcements?
No, Mr Chairman.
Thank you very much. Are there any Chief Officers' announcements? Heather Sandy?
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Just to let the committee know, Councillor Bradwell mentioned this last time, that we had concluded our support to North East Lincolnshire Council, and we're delighted to be supporting Nottingham City Council on their improvement journey. So that will be commencing well, it's commenced actually. We started that work last week. And then the other thing to note is that we were successful in our bid for funding to support the SEMH school, which the committee is already aware of, but this is the school that will be on the same site as the secure unit, and we're really pleased to see that progressing. So received how much funding, Martin? 18 million. So
that's marvellous. Two good news stories there, shall we say, but clearly the assistance to another council is continuing the reputation that this council has for its excellent children's services, and I think that's great. And obviously the additional funding is good news. Thank you very much. If there are no further announcements, we'll move on to item 5 on today's agenda, which is Primary School Mobile Replacement Scheme. And this item, which can be found on pages 13 to 40 of the agenda pack, is for pre-decision scrutiny prior to a decision by the leader of the council between the 24th and the 28th of June of this year. And just to recap on the actions required of us, we're required to firstly consider the attached report and to determine whether the committee supports the recommendations to the leader of the council as set out in the report, and secondly to agree any additional comments to be passed on to the leader in relation to this item. And the 2 recommendations to the leader of the council are set out on page 16 of the agenda pack. Now, just to remind committee that appendices A and B are exempt. If the committee wishes to discuss these appendices, we will need to vote to move into exempt session. Can we please have questions and comments on the open report and appendices C and D first? And if there are any questions or comments on appendices A and B, can we please leave them until we've voted to go into exempt session if that is necessary? So, without further delay, I'd like to invite Neil Cathell, Project Team Leader, Corporate Property, to present the report. We also have Dave Pennington, Head of Property Development, in attendance to help answer any questions. So it's over to you, Neil.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so the format of this report will be similar to all of the ones that Corporate Property do, which you're all aware of. So what I'm going to do is highlight the scheme itself and then invite the floor to any questions. So the programme will replace mobile classrooms on school sites, primary schools, that are at their end of useful life with permanent classrooms. And these are mobiles that are uneconomical to repair. The mobile classrooms will be at Baston Church of England Primary School, Leasingham St Andrew's Church of England School, and South Highcombe Community Primary School. In terms of the background, Baston currently has 2 mobile units. These are around 30 years old and 10 years old. A recent condition survey reports that replacing the mobiles would save £182,000 in remediation costs, which will only continue to increase as the buildings deteriorate. The major aspects of work are around the roof, external walls, windows and doors. In terms of Leasingham, the mobile unit has been on site for around 30 years, which is well above the usual lifespan of a mobile classroom. Condition survey suggests that replacing the mobiles with a permanent solution would save £57,000. And South Highcombe's mobile unit has been in situ for around 25 years. Replacing this with a new permanent classroom will negate the need to spend about £80,000 for condition works, again on roof, windows, doors. In terms of the scope of works for the projects, solar panels will be fitted onto all 3 schemes to reduce energy costs. Baston will provide 2 classroom extension to replace the mobile classrooms, which is approaching end of life and will be demolished. Leasingham will provide a classroom extension and a resources area extension to replace the mobile classrooms, which are approaching end of life. There are also new toilets to be provided along the corridor. There are a couple of options A and B for this, which are shown in Appendix C. Option A includes the school addition of a larger resources area, which will be funded by the school, subject to local authority assessment, or alternatively, the project will be scaled back to the original local authority design, option B. The resources area has been increased in size to allow the school to use the larger space more effectively for after-school clubs. Due to previous flooding incidents at the school, the new buildings have been designed to mitigate flood risk. This has been done by raising the height of air vents and adding flood barriers to external doors. In terms of South Highcombe, the project will provide a one classroom extension to replace the mobile classroom. The design solution will make future expansion more cost effective as it's future proofed to allow a further classroom to be expanded in the future when required. New toilets are also being provided. In terms of project cost, the total project cost for the construction works at the 3 sites is 4,438,500. So to conclude, the projects will begin construction in summer of 2024 and completed by April 2025. We've identified a need for the replacement of mobile classrooms at Baston, Leasingham and South Highcombe primary schools. This will alleviate the ongoing and worsening condition-related issues relating to end-of-life mobiles and will create permanent fit-for-purpose learning environments for pupils. The proposed schemes will deliver this requirement.
Thank you, Neil. And I'd like to invite members of the committee to comment on the open report and, once again, appendices C and D only. Councillor Reid, do we have any speakers?
None that I can see. Oh, hello. Here we go.
There we go.
Councillor Colin Matthews.
I think Councillor Gray got his hand up a split second before Councillor Matthews. Councillor Gray.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And just before I start, thank you very much for the thanks that you gave me at the beginning of the meeting. It really was an honour to be Vice Chairman of this Children and Young People Scrutiny, and thank you for your excellent chairmanship, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'm very supportive of the report. We've just heard about future-proofing. I don't think I heard that all 3 schools are future-proofed. I think I heard one was future-proofed with regard to perhaps increased numbers of children requiring a place in the future. But can we be assured that all 3 schools, as we're building these extra classrooms, are all 3 schools being future-proofed?
Thank you. So there are no plans to expand Baston and Leasingham. They are currently 1 FE primary schools. For South Highcombe, it's part of a longer-term plan to expand, and that's why we are developing that scheme in terms of putting the construction elements in place for that second part from a drainage perspective and foundation perspective. There's a large housing development expected for South Highcombe, so it's within our plans to develop that scheme as part of the future. So this achieves better value for the works.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Councillor Matthews.
Yes, I approve the plan, but I want to clarify. You talked about extensions to classrooms, and I get that. So this is not a like-for-like replacement of mobile homes, but is value being added to the core school building through the nature of the extension to classroom? It's a similar question to Councillor Gray's, but has thought been put into how the building will work if we're sticking on a couple of extra classrooms on the end?
Yeah, so as part of the design process, absolutely everything's been considered into the best location for the buildings in terms of the way that they're accessed through corridors, and also externally what's there in terms of trees and external areas. So yes, it's all been well thought out through the design process.
Whilst you're perhaps considering your questions, can I just ask a question? On paragraph 3.1 on page 18, it states that new solar panel arrays are being fitted to all the projects to reduce energy costs. Are there any other sort of eco-friendly measures being incorporated to reduce energy use? Yeah, so part L of the building regulations must be adhered to in all new builds and refurbishments. So walls, floors, roofs, insulation, windows and doors, they'll all have to be thermally rated to meet minimum energy standards, including the airtightness of the building.
In addition to that, heating and cooling systems must have a minimum efficiency level, and there'll be LED lighting throughout.
Thanks very much. Councillor Whittington, I believe you have a question.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I noticed on all three of them that kind of the plan is to start the construction during the summer of this year and to finish sort of April next year. Now, two questions really, which I guess related. I'm assuming you've already been granted planning permission for these three. But what, if you could just clarify that, will the existing mobile classrooms, presumably that they'll still need to be in use during the build time? And what mitigation have you got there for any overruns? But also how to protect the children, because obviously there's going to be a building site at their primary schools. So just to give some reassurance that the safety of the children during this process has been built in to the plans. Thank you.
Yep, certainly. So in terms of building locations, yes, they are on new areas of land. So we are looking to keep the children within the mobiles until the new developments have been created. We're used to working, contractors are used to working on a regular basis on sites around school children. So all health and safety is taken into place. Site compounds are secure and areas are fenced off adequately to allow no access from children.
Dave, you wish to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just to add a bit of clarification to the paper, you'll notice on page 19 that also Fleetwood Lane School is included in this paper. That's just for your awareness that we're starting pre-construction activity on that, but we're not coming forward for a decision today, but we will be, as part of the overall programme to replace mobile classrooms, we will be coming back to scrutiny at a future point with a paper for that particular scheme. I just wanted to offer a bit of clarification on that point.
Thanks very much. Councillor Dilks, you have a question, I believe.
I just have a comment, really, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I can see I'm being looked at because I did say to Heather before we started, I'm only subbing today, so I won't speak. But here I am. I can't help it, can I? But I really wanted to say I really welcome this move. You know, it's an investment in our children. I'm assuming that the reason that the temporary classrooms were built in, were provided in the first place, was because we weren't sure about school roles in the future. And I'm assuming, I hope that you know, we've looked at, you know, projected school roles, and they are going to be needed in the longer term. But you know, children going to school, they don't want to be in temporary classrooms if they can help, if we can help it. So I really will. It's a lot of money, isn't it, that this is costing, but I think in the long term it will save money, so I welcome it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Do we have any further questions or comments? Councillor Whittington.
Just a couple, but I'm not sure if one of them we may need to move into private session for. Is just really, I'll ask the question, but I won't give any numbers. It's around the payback on the investments. But the second question is, you know, after this programme, are there any more primary schools or even secondary schools? I know we still have a few secondary schools that are under local authority control. Have we got any more schools across Lincolnshire that still have mobile classrooms? And if so, what are our plans to replace those? Thank you.
Yeah, so as Dave Pennington alluded to earlier, Fleetwood Lane is next on the list. We are in the pre-construction activities at present, and then when we receive further funding in April next year, that will proceed through to construction, and this will come to scrutiny for that decision. There are two or three other classrooms which have been highlighted at this stage, but obviously because of the cost increases that we've received over the last 3 or 4 years on the schemes, I think we're looking into the options around delivery of those. So ideally we would like to progress with delivery of future mobiles, however we will have to look at the financial elements that surround it.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Whittington, do you wish to come back?
Yes, sorry, just to clarify. So roughly how many schools still have mobile classrooms? Because is it going to be something that we can do in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or is it 10 years? Because obviously, I appreciate it's all down to funding being made available, but just to give some idea of the extent of this issue, because I can remember when I was at school being in a sort of mobile temporary classroom, and sometimes mobile and temporary can, in some of these cases, have been there for 30 years, and so just trying to get an indication of how many we've still got left across the county. Thank you.
Oh, I think, Heather, you wish to come in? Was it?
I think it's in the paper. Is it? Is it 70? Thank you. That's okay. Yeah. So I think we've still. So I think we want to have a programme of replacement, and I think the council has committed over the past few years and going forward within the capital programme for us to have a scheme. So what we do is we look at what's the highest priority and what can we do within the funding envelope for that year, and that will continue to move forward. And also we seek other funding opportunities where we can. What we can't do is use things like basic need funding, because the basic need has to be adding places, and of course technically these places are there. So it's about really utilising the funding that we can get to do that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bradwell, did you... Thank you. Oh, Dave Pennington, you wish to come back.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just in terms of the payback, this is around removing our liability for mobiles that are in extremely poor condition. So obviously the paper contains the immediate cost avoidance that we see by demolishing them, but it's really about having fit for purpose classrooms that are educating our children and not keeping substandard, deteriorating mobiles on site any longer than we need to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions on the open report and appendices C and D? I now need to determine whether anyone wishes to speak on appendices A and B. If not, we can move to a proposal. Does anyone wish to speak on A and B? Because we'll have to move into the closed session for that. You're all happy? All happy. Fine. We'll now move to the proposal, which is I propose that we support the two recommendations to the Leader of the Council and that our comments be passed on to the Leader. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Sear, thank you very much. As usual, the comments from the committee's discussion on this report have been recorded by Tracy Johnson, Senior Scrutiny Officer, for passing on to the Leader. So we can now vote on the item. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. I think that is unanimous. Thank you very much. That is carried. We now move on to item 6, which is the new 4-classroom block, Gosberton House Academy at Gosberton. And this item, which can be found on pages 41 to 60 of your agenda pack, is for pre-decision scrutiny again, prior to a decision by the Leader of the Council between the 24th and 28th of June this year. And again, the actions required of the committee are to consider the attached report and to determine whether the committee supports the recommendations to the Leader of the Council as set out in the report, and secondly, to agree any additional comments to be passed to the Leader in relation to this item. The 4 recommendations to the Leader of the Council are set out on page 44 of the agenda pack. And again, just to remind everyone, that appendices A and B are again exempt. And if we wish to discuss these appendices, we'll need to move into the exempt session. So we'll go on with the parts that we need to do, and then if we find that people wish to comment on those, we'll have to go into exempt session. So it's a repeat of the previous format. I'd like to invite Dave Pennington, Head of Property Development, to present this report. We also have Eileen McMurrow, Programme Manager, SEND and Inclusion, in attendance to help answer any questions. So once again, it's over to you, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As per the previous paper, so you'll notice some of the contents are the same and the section headings are the same, so I don't propose to go over some of the same material, but I'll just pick out some of the salient points for your awareness and questioning. On page 46, you'll notice that the scope of this particular project is to build a 4-classroom block. So 2 of those will be for children with profound and multiple learning disabilities, and 2 of those will be for general needs in terms of SEND. So, and what we're doing is we are converting the school from an autism specialism so that it can take all needs in line with our overall strategy. You'll also notice on page 48 that the budget for this particular scheme has gone up somewhat. It is unfortunate that the site that we are dealing with here is very, very complex. So I just want to bring to the committee's attention some of the reasons why that budget has gone up, and hopefully once I put it into context you will understand. One of the first things we have to take into account is inflation, but that's perhaps one of the minor points on this. The site constraints are such that we're in a flood risk area and the site floods semi-frequently. That's where the school is built. So we have to take that into account as part of the design. One of the things we have to do is when we're putting the foundations in, there's a couple of different ways that you can build foundations. One is piling, where you see a big rig on the site and it literally pounds a huge concrete column into the ground. And then you put your foundations on top of that, and that distributes the weight load. The other way that you can build foundations is called a raft, where it kind of is what it sounds like. You build a raft on top of the soil. Obviously, you dig down and you compact it, but you build a raft, and that distributes the load of the building that sits on top. This site is so complex that we have to put in 11-metre piles. So that's probably about not far off twice the height of this building that we're in now. 11 metres, well, perhaps not quite twice the height, but a bit taller. But also we have to put raft foundations on top of that as well, because the ground conditions are so poor in this area, and that is accounting for a good chunk of the cost. So the structure that then goes on top of the foundations has to be, not only do we have to have very, very big foundations, we have to have a very lightweight structure on top. So we're using specialist steel, for example, and the whole design process means that the classrooms are lightweight, they're robust, and they meet our standards for SEND, but they're also lightweight as well. We also have to upgrade a substation on the site because the electricity capacity isn't enough. We also have to upgrade the water discharge. So you have foul water and surface water, so that's rainwater has to be discharged off the site, and you have foul water as well from the toilets that has to be discharged. Now, because of the conditions of the site, Anglian Water have said that we have to connect into one of their main drains. Unfortunately, we have to dig a pipe all the way down the drive and a mile down the local highway. And the only way that we can do that in negotiation with highways to keep the road open is by using something called directional drilling. And directional drilling is where you put a drill in the ground, it goes down, it goes below all the existing services, so below the gas, the electricity that are in that road already. You go down to a certain depth and then you drill along. Ordinarily, we would trench, so that is what it sounds like. You dig a trench and you lay the pipe, but we can't do that because that means we'd have to close the whole highway. So there's also a risk of gas on that site as well, radon gas, so we're having to mitigate that with the design and install some pipes and newts. So this sounds like a bad news story, but the good news is that because we've been prudent in how we've managed the SEND programme, just to remind you, we have £101 million which we've invested in our SEND estate. Because of how we've managed the previous 11 projects, it means that we have sufficient funding to meet the gap on this project, which is overall a good news story. So we are not asking the committee or the local authority for additional funding for this. We have covered it off within the overall budget for the SEND programme. But I wanted to offer you that context in terms of why the costs have gone up. Just in terms of also, just another point to note before I conclude my bit, the kind of environmental impact, if you wish. It is worth noting, because we make an effort with all our schemes to put solar panels on where we possibly can, but this, as well as everything else on this site, it's also in a conservation area. Now, with it being in a conservation area, it means it's very pretty. It will look fantastic when it's finished. But it also means that all the trees have a tree preservation order on, so we have the ability to remove the trees that we need to build the 4-classroom block, but the site is shaded and overhung. And we've had the contractor undertake studies, which means it would quite literally be pointless to put solar panels on this because there is no direct sunlight whatsoever for these classrooms. However, the building is powered by electric, which is, in terms of a net zero approach, is more preferable than gas. So we're not using gas, we're using electricity to power the 4 classrooms. We're also using an air source heat pump to power all of the electricity, so the hot water, the lighting, and the air conditioning system as well. So we have tried to do what we can within the constraints of the site and the building. So I invite the committee for any further questions, but hopefully that provides some context.
Thank you very much, David. It sounds like a major technical challenge, this project. Councillor Whittington.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. I think that's the basis of my question. Dave, you must have quite a substantial risk register on this particular one. I'm guessing with all of the issues that you've outlined, and yeah, I mean, I do take your point that, you know, on the overall programme there have been underspends elsewhere, so we can cover this cost increase. The question really is related to that and cost. Are we absolutely confident that we have got all the mitigations in place that we need and all fully costed out? Because obviously, you know, with a site such as this, there, you know, you maybe do run the risk of overruns or other issues becoming available. But just a bit of reassurance around that. But ultimately, if it has to be spent, it has to be spent, because, you know, we have the commitment to increasing our SEND provision across the county. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Whittington. That's a good question. You'll see in the exempt appendix, I won't go into the figures, but there is a substantial amount of risk only on the contractor side and on the client side as well, on our project risk. The way in which we deliver projects over the last 7-8 years or so, we deliver our projects in a different way that we used to. We used to deliver projects where we would have what's called a race to the bottom in terms of the cost with the contractor. We'd get on site quickly, and then when the contractor got on site, there used to be a whole load of problems and the cost used to go up. So that our final account used to be, we couldn't offer project certainty in terms of cost. We use a different contract type to what we used to now, which means that we force the contractor to manage and mitigate the risk in the pre-construction phase. So again, for the committee's awareness, you've effectively got 2 phases to a project, capital project, pre-construction, and then when you get on site in terms of construction. And the way in which we run our projects now in pre-construction means that all of these risks have to be flushed out, no pun intended, and they have to be costed, and they have to be challenged. So they're challenged on our side with our professional expertise, and we challenge the contractor, have they got a handle on the risk? Do they understand it? Have they mitigated it? And also that then informs our client risk register, and have we got enough to account for it as well? It means that we have a lot of very difficult conversations in pre-construction, and we're seeing that in other projects as well. You'll be aware of the Links Secure Children's Home. We're having some very difficult conversations with the contractor in pre-construction, but that's where we should be having them, so that when we get onto site, we can guarantee our project delivery and we can guarantee timescales and budgets. So just to give the committee a bit of assurance, we do have these difficult conversations. We do challenge them technically in pre-construction so that we have a higher level of certainty so that we can finish on time and on budget.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews, did you indicate you had a question?
Thank you. Who'd want to be building schools? Not quite so powerful the second time round as a humorous comment, but hey-ho. In the previous plans we looked at, and I can't find the plans for this one, there were solar panels shown on the roof, but there were a number of solar panels. Let's say there were 12 solar panels or 14 solar panels, but the roof was much, much larger. Now, I note in this plan that you're saying it's reliant on electricity. So have we built in sufficient electric supply through solar panels or through wind generators or things like that to mitigate that change from gas to electricity? It's more a general principle. It's not going to stop me being in favour of what we're doing, but it's just about, are we seriously thinking about this building is going to be here for 40 years? I'm not going to be here for 40 years, but during that time it should come out as positive in terms of electric production against the demand being made by the school, and we can engineer that now, and I'm not sure if I get that from the information, that's all.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Matthews. I don't recall seeing previous designs with solar panels, so that might have been a different one. But, oh, sorry, go on. No, that's fine. So just to reiterate on this one, it is a shaded site, so we can't put solar panels on. But we have done what we can in terms of air source heat pump running the electricity system. In terms of future proofing, the way it's been designed, we have confidence that it will be there for 20, 30, 40 years, as you've already stated. There shouldn't be a need to have any major intervention in the systems in that time other than the regular maintenance, and we have also are upgrading the electricity supply to take into account of that as well. Unfortunately, without sounding glib, it is what it is. It's a very difficult site. We can't enhance the sustainability any further, but I can give you assurance once it's there, it should be there for, as you said, the lifespan of the building.
You wish to come back, Councillor Matthews?
I do, because when you talk about it being a shaded site, we're talking about roofs which are higher up above the tree level or at tree level, and I'm not sure if that's a valid defence in that situation. I want to know it's been explored that we can put solar power somewhere on this site.
Just to offer some clarity, Councillor Matthews, no, the site is effectively surrounded by trees, very tall, big, old trees. It's in a conservation area, and when I say it's shaded, what I mean by that is we're building a single-storey 4-classroom block, so it's not very high, and basically the trees are not preventing the sunlight from getting onto it. So we have explored it, we have looked at it, and our contractors have carried out studies in terms of where the sun is at any given point in the day to understand whether solar panels would be worthwhile. And unfortunately, because of the site, solar panels on this particular site are just not worthwhile.
Thank you very much. Do we have, Councillor Dilks, you have a question.
Here I go again, sorry. I just wonder, with all the challenges, and I understand the technical challenges and welcome the solutions that you're coming up to. I just wonder if you looked at any alternative sites that might have offered better value.
Yeah, absolutely. I can come in on this one, Councillor Dilks. So effectively, it's an expansion of an existing school. The skills, the expertise, the existing classrooms are already in the existing school, and our proposal is to move that school to be able to meet all needs. So at present it's an autism specialist school, and the proposal is that it would be to meet all needs. Could we have looked at a complete relocation of that site? We're really struggling for viable sites in that area as well, so I think we would have really struggled. I think it would have been more costly to the council, because we'd have ended up having to build a full school and then purchase a site in addition. And I think it's probably just worth noting at this point that, there's lots of skills and capabilities. It's a very highly skilled staff cohort in that school. So we really want to just be able to expand on what's existing, because it is an excellent site, an excellent school.
Heather, you wish to come in. Thank you.
And Councillor Dilks, just to say, on a previous school in this scheme, we did exactly that. So we looked at the site, and it's the school in Boston, isn't it? And actually the site wasn't going to work for this, and it needed such extensive work that the cost was comparable to moving it and putting it in a different place. And again, in Horncastle, we've done relocation within a site. So just to assure you, we do look at all of that and really try and get the best outcome. Because if we could pick this school up and put it on a less complicated site, we certainly would love to.
Thanks very much. Councillor Reid, I believe you have a question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As the new boy around here, Gosberton is a school that I do know of reasonably well. I think it's amazing that it also has a hydrotherapy pool, of which most of the special schools do have. And I read in the report that this is now going to make this particular project, of which has been £100 million on special expansions, is going to provide 550 extra places within our county. And it's really great to be on board knowing that Lincolnshire's ahead of the game. I've listened earlier to how we've helped North East Links, and indeed we're going to offer some support to Nottinghamshire as well. and I understand that there is phase two of an expansion plan, which is in the wind, and again, that will provide us yet another leap into extra provision that is provided. I know particularly in my division where Willoughby Road School is concerned in Bourne, before that lovely, terrific, supportive facility is for special needs children. Some of these children were going out of county for many, many miles, and the fact that we have made this provision and we've made provision all over the county, it truly champions just what our children's services do. And it's not to get brownie points, but that's what I honestly really do believe. And I think we should say so as well. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thanks very much, and welcome. I welcome your contributions, Councillor Reid, as the new member here. Do we have any other further questions on this part of the report? There's just one thing I'd like to ask, and it's maybe slightly controversial in so much as there's a debate, I understand, about air source heat pumps. Have we had assurances that they will generate sufficient heat within the building? Is this because of the extra insulation that will be installed, or is it just that they will be effective enough?
Yeah, you're right, Councillor Kendrick. There has been some debate about air source heat pumps in the past. So a couple of things on that. We make sure that our contractors use tried and tested products, so they're not using products which are going to fail on us. But also, as part of the design, they have to, we're using electrical engineers, they have to demonstrate and prove that the system will work. And then what we do in the following 12 months, once it's completed, we will monitor it and we'll support the school. And if anything comes up at that stage, as in a defect, we will make sure that that's rectified straight away. But as part of the design, we do challenge the contractors, and and we do use tried and tested products.
Thanks very much. It would seem from the report and what we've heard today that obviously, as I said earlier, it's a very complex project, but it looks as though, from my point of view, you've covered all the bases, which I think is obviously very reassuring for everyone concerned. If we have no further questions, do we have any questions on the exempt papers, appendices A and B? If not, we can move to a proposal. No one's indicating on those. Okay, we'll move to the proposal then. And once again, I propose that we support the two recommendations to the Leader of the Council and that our comments be passed on to the Leader. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Sear. Thank you very much. The comments from the committee's discussion on this report have been recorded once again by Tracy Johnson, Senior Scrutiny Officer, for passing on to the Leader. And we will now vote on this item. All those in favour, would you please raise your hand? That is once again unanimous. Now, I'm conscious of the fact that we've got through this fairly quickly. Would members still like to have a short break? No, you're happy to? Have we got officers coming in later, have we? So we'll have to have a break. Yeah. Just can we have a quick 5-minute break so you can grab yourself a coffee? It's just to allow people to come in and have a switch of officers. Thank you very much. Welcome back, members. After that short break, we can now move on to item 7 which is the Ofsted Inspection of Children's Services Leaving Care Improvement Plan. And this item, which can be found on pages 61 to 66 of your agenda pack, provides an update on the Leaving Care Improvement Plan that arose from the Ofsted Inspection of Children's Services. And just to remind everyone, the actions required of us as a committee. We're required to review this report and seek assurance on the progress of the Leaving Care Improvement Plan. And therefore, I'd like to invite Andrew Morris, Head of Service, Leaving Care and Supported Living, and Kerry Mitchell, Assistant Director, Barnardo's, to present the report. So it's over to you, Andy and Kerry. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'll try and keep the summary of this report fairly brief and concise, but the full inspection report's attached and take you through the Transformation Improvement Plan as we've set it out. So following the Ofsted inspection in 2023, the Leaving Care Service for Lincolnshire was assessed as good, but when we met with the inspectors, we had some discussions about areas of improvement. We want to ensure that the Leaving Care Service is an outstanding service in line with all of our other aspects of children's services. Within the inspection report, it highlighted a couple of areas of real positivity. Firstly, in the fact that the practice was good and that care leavers had excellent relationships with their leaving care workers, and that was a real strength of the service, that young people felt supported and cared for by their leaving care workers. And the quality of mental health and emotional wellbeing support was also praised, because we've got integrated mental health within the model for leaving care. And that we felt that response to crisis, and when some of our young people were in crisis, was absolutely outstanding, that leaving care staff wrapped around those young people immediately. However, the inspection also highlighted that there were elements of the service, and specifically our response and support to young people over the age of 21 needed some attention, and that the quality of recording required attention. I think that was more about the content of recording, not the practice undertaken. As the inspectors highlighted, practice was excellent. It was how that was recorded back on our systems, and that's of course an area of the improvement and transformation plan. And the quality of work sometimes was delayed at the age of 16 in terms of allocation of young people, because our aspiration is to have young people allocated to leaving care workers soon after the age of 16, so they're supported to build that relationship between 16 and 18 when the leaving care worker takes over at the age of 18. So those are really the fundamental findings of the inspection. That was a good service with some areas of improvement. So I'll take you now through some of the areas of the improvement plan and how we're tackling some of these issues. We've broken the work streams down into a number of areas. The first one being young people's journey, and this is about the young people's journey from the age of 16 through to the age of 25, when that service eventually steps away at the age of 25. And we're looking at improving young people's experiences, how joint supervisions between staff are undertaken, and how we use our IT systems and our workflow and information to make sure that journey is well connected to the young person and well connected to staff. What we're also doing through the young people's journey is recalibrating our 21 plus offer. So when young people turn 21, we've really addressed the way in which we stay in touch with our young people and how those young people come back for the service and have support post 21. Because the offer over the age of 21 is slightly different in that it's information, advice and guidance, and we're trying to encourage young people to independence, but we've addressed how we stay in touch with those young people. And we've done that by now all young people are allocated to a named individual, a team manager. And we've really significantly increased our contact and how we reach out to our young people over the age of 21 with quarterly newsletters, additional birthday cards, letters, staying in touch. And some of the impacts of that has been that we've seen a significant rise in the number of young people over the age of 21 coming back for service, staying in touch and finding about the availability of resources and support to them, which include things like council tax relief up to the age of 25, free prescriptions through the NHS, free access to leisure. And what that newsletter has really done is made sure those young people feel really connected to the service, and the young people are coming back, sometimes with brief pieces of work, brief pieces of support, maybe with a CV, maybe with a piece of ability to apply for some housing, or maybe returning to college. But if the young person is in crisis, what we've also done with our 21 plus service now is improved the process by which young people can be directly allocated back to a leaving care worker for a specific longer term piece of focused work. So within that work stream, we've really improved our 21 plus service, specifically how we stay in touch. We've also redesigned our allocation and our tracking process of young people at the age of 16, and we can now really straight away see at the age of 16, when somebody turns 16, we have a process and a report that feeds directly into children in care teams, into the FAST teams and into the Leaving Care Service. So we track every young person to ensure there's no drift or delay in allocation, and that report is circulated now on a weekly basis. And team managers within the Care Service and the Leaving Care Service and within our services within children in care identify those young people and ensure that there is no slippage or drift and delay in that young person's allocation. So we're really confident now that those young people are being picked up as soon as they're ready at 16, and that relationship's built from 18 and then sustained through 21 through to 25. Further to that, we're also looking at direct engagement with young people more generally across our children in care experience and our Leaving Care cohort of young people to make sure that we're listening to them about how this service redesign and this transformation improvement plan is going to change in line with what their wishes and feelings are. And for example, we had a fantastic event on Monday. They didn't get me into the go-karts, but they wanted to get me into gridline racing to do go-karting with about 25 young people. And we had a really, really active participation and conversations with them in between the races. We had 25 young people have two Grand Prix gridline racing in Lincolnshire, which was absolutely fantastic for our young people, a really positive event. And we've got a huge amount of information from the young people there about what they want their new service to look like. The second work stream is looking really at performance and data, and this is focusing on the accuracy of our data and our understanding of our information about our young people. Made huge strides in this area. Bernardo's have worked incredibly closely with the local authority. We've got a really good understanding of our data now, and what it is really enabling us to do is really understand our cohort of young people, where our young people are, and how we can make sure we stay in touch with our young people. So our improvement in data and information is making sure that all these other work streams can be really effective. And what we can do then is track impact and make sure that those young people are coming back for service or in education, employment training, suitability of accommodation. That's really significantly improved. The third work stream is around our core offer. Ofsted cited some inconsistencies in our core offer around some inconsistency, for example, of access to council tax relief. Some of the district councils ensured that was up to the age of 21. Some of the district councils ensured that up to the age of 25. I'm pleased to say as from April 1st, all district councils have now harmonised that across. So every district council is offering free council tax relief up to the age of 25. As I said earlier, the NHS have agreed free prescriptions for all of our care leavers up to the age of 25. So health and the cost of health for paying prescriptions is no longer a barrier for our young people who want to be engaged in employment and are working. So it's all about these things that grease the wheels for our young people and make lives that little bit easier and a bit better for them. We've also, I'm really pleased to say, we've now got 4 of the 7 district councils offering free leisure access for our young people from 16 through to the age of 25. That's been incredibly successful, and I'm just working with the last 3 to get that across the line. I'm working very closely with them and looking at how other district councils did it and how we can make sure that that's harmonised across all of the districts. So there's been a lot of work done to make sure the offers are a lot more consistent and clearer. We've got a really focused participation group being led by Lisa Richards and Paul Fisher to make sure we engage with our care leavers to make sure that they understand the offer to them. One of the things we experienced in Ofsted was Ofsted said to us, young people didn't know what the core offer was. And when we said to them, don't use the language core offer, ask young people, do you know what you're entitled to? Young people went, yeah, of course I do. So that was a bit of a language thing. So when Ofsted come back, that's a learning for us to say, it's not the core offer. For our young people, it's what's your rights and entitlements. And one of the things we're doing as well, we've got the Hive Bright system, which is an electronic online system that enables us to directly participate. And this is being built with Kerry and myself in Bernardo's now. To directly reach out digitally, more directly to our young people to make sure, for example, if an apprenticeship offer comes up, we can forward that out to our care leavers and say, hey, look what's come up. Anybody interested? Come and speak to your leaving care worker. This is an opportunity for you. So participation, communication of the core offer is another growing strength in the service. The fourth work stream is around training and development. And this has been a significant piece of work for us, and what we've done in the Leaving Care Services work really closely with our internal training teams within the local authority, and we're harmonising the training offer so that when Ofsted come back, what they will see is a more unified approach to training, education and training for our own staff, so that we're seen as one seamless service rather than 2 organisations. And I think that's what they saw potentially. And what we've done is we've harmonised our training processes, but also our quality assurance processes. So Bernardo's are now fully embedded into our quality assurance and audit processes and part of the audit process across children's services. So our learning is now really combined and well integrated with the Leaving Care Service. And I've outlined some of the training that we've put forward for staff there, which includes pathway planning training, signs of safety training, and audit training, and also, most importantly, as identified in Ofsted, language, and we call it caring to record, or recording with care. How you record in a caring and an engaging language to young people is something we're helping Bernardo's move in line with how the local authority does that. And the final one is a work stream around education, training and employment, which has seen us bring all of the partners together around education, employment training, from NACRO to YPLP, the Young Persons Learning Partnership, through to the DWP, Department for Work and Pensions, Lincoln College, the virtual school, the Leaving Care Service, looking at how we map and understand young people's journey through education and how those aspirations for education can be better embedded into our pathway plans. Through that process, we've really done some really targeted work with the education employment training workers in Kerry's service, aided by better data of understanding where our young people aren't in education employment training. And we've seen, through the data cleaning and the direct contact work, we've seen a 6% increase in our education employment and training engagement over the last 3 months. Some of that is about better connection with young people. Some of that's actually about tidying our data up and understanding our data a little bit better. So it's a little bit of both of that. I'm not going to say it's all because of the way we've changed our process. Some of that is actually better management of our data, which of course feeds into the other action point within the transformation plan. So it's really just to summarise and finish there to say the improvement plan's under constant review. Progress is being monitored via a comprehensive action plan and bi-monthly meetings chaired by myself with the Leaving Care Service and all the core partners around the improvement plan. This is regularly reported to DLT on a monthly basis and of course now to Children's Scrutiny today. So I will welcome any questions, observations, thoughts from the members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. I think that's a very comprehensive report and very encouraging. Just before we move on to questions, Kerry, did you wish to make any comments from your perspective?
No, not this time, because we wrote it together. So when we decided that one of us would feed back, it was easier.
A combined effort.
Yeah.
That's great. Councillor Matthews, you have a question.
Right, we can repeat that. Well done. This is the stuff we want to hear. It's really good. A couple of clarifications, really. Not in any sense a challenge on what you've written. Could you talk about the relationship with Bernardo's a little bit more in a moment? And could you talk about how this links with the LPFT transition plan, which is a wider engagement between obviously the County Council, Children's Services and LPFT, because you talk about young adults being in crisis, and I wonder what the nature of that is, and some of it might be mental health. And can I just point out, and I perhaps do it quietly, on midway down page 65, every young person has been offered an opportunity to renege with YPLP and return to education. I think you mean, it's the sort of mistake I make all the time, going too fast typing.
That's a killer typo,
so it's just
that one.
simply a typo, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I suppose it would just be interesting to get more context about what, in relation to the relationship with Bernardo's, you would like to hear.
Because you will understand that I'm a challenger on NEET all the time, and that we have passed over responsibility for some of this, young children leaving care and young children in this context, to Bernardo's, and they have a massive service. And I'm not sure if we've always had a really good, secure grasp of what they're doing and achieving and what they're able to do and achieve. And this speaks really highly of our relationship with Bernardo's. And is that now a changed state? Have processes been changed? What's happened that, we now are praising Bernardo's where we might have had a slight question mark about, or I've had question marks about their engagement.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay, yeah, so from that lens, I think some of the differences is the additional capacity of putting at a leadership level, which has allowed us to have more oversight and management oversight and relationships with the local authority. I think the Ofsted put in that governance structure at a wider and more in-depth level. So it's allowed us to bring this plan together and allowed us to work much more as one organisation, even though we're two separate organisations. So I think there's some of the findings. I think some of the infrastructure changes that we've made, where we've been able to move Mosaic from as functioning in a child system to an adult system, has allowed much better recording. So I think it's some of those quick pace infrastructure changes as well that have allowed us to record what we need to record for adults rather than children. And our relationship, I believe, has always been good with the local authority. I think that just some of that integration more into your quality assurance processes and working as one rather than two separate organisations has brought on this quite quick pace improvement. Yeah. Is that okay? Is that, yeah?
Thanks very much. Councillor Dilks?
Sorry, I just wanted to answer the second question.
Oh,
Councillor, there was one just about the LPFT transformation plan. It was just to say that I'm part of that transformation plan, and I've met with Tara and Charlotte and looking at LPFT mental health in the broadest sense. This is why we do have mental health integrated into the Leaving Care service, and will continue to do so in future services. And we're looking specifically at care leavers as a standalone element of that transformation, about where care leavers fit into it in terms of emotional well-being, mental health, and making sure that's integrated into the Leaving Care service as is, and any new model going forward. So that is all part of the vision for LPFT.
Thanks very much for that.
Sorry, can I invite that to be added into the report, because I think it's a strength. But I couldn't find it in the report, that was all. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Councillor Wilkes, you have a question or comment? Dilks, sorry.
Sorry.
My
I
apologies.
was looking round for Councillor Wilkes.
So I've renamed you this morning.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to focus really on a bit of, the progress that has been made, in providing support for people coming out of care over the years and over. I came on this council for the first time in 2001. I've had a few gaps since, but I came in 2001. I remember, in one of the first inductions I had, being told that we are the parents of these children. I've got two children, they're in their 40s now, but I've got to tell you, it doesn't stop at 16, 18 or 24. They're in their 40s and they still come to dad and mum for advice and, of course, money. Bank of mum and dad, as they call it. I do remember sort of, in those days, and it was a generation ago, wasn't it? Children used to leave care at, is it 16 or 18? And that was it, as far as I could really see. There wasn't a lot of sort of support for them. So I really welcome it. It was, in fact, it was the Blair government that brought it in and raised it to 24, but I'm not sure there was a lot of support around that. It was just more of an aspiration, perhaps, then. So I welcome what governments since have done, and it seemed the current government's bringing more responsibilities in. But I do remember asking in those days, and I think I'd like to ask it now, really, and it does relate to the work stream, education, employment, and training. I do recall asking about the opportunities that care leavers are offered, and one of them was in education, and I wanted to compare what these children should be offered, as far as possible, the same opportunities as our children, if I can say that. They are our children, are offered, and that comes down to me to education first. And it was I had a whole thing about I won't go into selective education in Lincolnshire, but I did ask, how many of these 500 at the time, 500 or 600 of children in care, actually make it to university, as both my daughters and I bet most of our kids did themselves. And the answer was, from a senior officer who doesn't work here anymore, long time ago, was, well, first of all, it was, these are difficult children, which I think, well, what, are they thick or what, you know? No. But the answer was, well, yeah, we did have one child out of the 500 that went to university, but it didn't work out. And I just thought, wow, you know. So I would at some point like to sort of look into, you know, how are we doing now? How have we improved? And what sort of, I don't know if you've got those kind of figures available, but it would be interesting to sort of look at how that has improved. And then related to that is, I wonder if there's been any work done, particularly in Lincolnshire, on how many of these you know, young carers in future life end up, you know, in prison, rough sleeping or homeless, in comparison to you know, children that are not in care. I hope that's helpful, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dilks. I'll make sure I get that right. I do apologise for that error. Andrew, you have a response, or is it Kerry? Kerry.
So yeah, in relation to EAT, at this moment in time, we've got 12 young people at university and two young people doing masters, one doing international law. Yeah, there is a massive increase in relation to the retention of young people, both through into higher education and in education in general. And that's due to the work that the virtual school does and how much that's improving their attainment through into. Obviously, these young people have been through significant trauma throughout, so there is some young people that find that difficult, but there is many of intervention in place, both external to Barnardo's but also internal within Barnardo's, around how we support those young people getting ready for able to engage into education, employment, training. And one of those big gaps was mental health, and now having those two mental health workers in the service is about being able to work. And the thresholds difference between children and adults can often find a difference. Now we've got our own resource. Actually, we can provide tailored support to those young people, and we can keep going and knocking on the door, and we are there until they're able to engage with us. So it's made a massive difference. So yeah, we can get you full figures, but that's just some figures for now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have Councillor Whittington next, and then Councillor Reid. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Andy, thanks for the report. I mean, I think the context behind this is, you know, that our children's services are rated as outstanding, but there are just these few areas with care leavers where, you know, where they were still rating the service as good, but areas for potential improvement. I mean, I listen to what Councillor Dilks said, and it is undoubtedly true that children who do go into care do suffer from some quite bad trauma. I know from personal experience, the child we adopted from the County Council over 20 years ago now, it's a considerable amount of trauma, some of which even now, even 20, 25 years later, is still playing out. So it is extremely, you know, you know, I think certainly the service that we offer now up to the age of 20, 24, 25 is great. But again, I take the point from Councillor Dilks that, you know, it's 25 is an age when we do have cut-off. But I do know, Andy, from things you said in the past, that you are still in contact with care leavers who are older than 20, 25, 26. Because obviously, as I think as Councillor Dilks says, once you're a parent, you're a parent. And I mean, I've always, ever since I've been on this council, very much tried to get across the message to all of the county councillors that we are all corporate parents for these children in care, and it's one of the most important aspects of the role that we do as councillors. The question really was, I have to say that because I'm full of complete admiration for what we do for our children in care, and I'm pleased that we've got the action plan to, you know, concentrate on those areas, and I'm really pleased with the work that we do with Barnardo's. and my own son was able to gain from that, and got some very good input from the Bernardo service, which we're all incredibly grateful for. The one question is the technical question around the provision of leisure facilities. Now, I'm pretty sure the South Kesteven are one of the 4 that do offer the free leisure provision, and also because I chase up the previous administration at SK to make sure that they did that. But how hopeful are we of being able to extend that across those other 3? Because it's just these little things like council tax exemptions until 25, leisure, just free leisure access to 25, prescription. It's just those small things, because I think as Councillor Dilk said, the bank of mum and dad still keeps children going into their whatever age, but for a lot of these children who've been in care, they get to 25 and, then they really are out on their own largely. I know some of them still keep in contact with foster parents and whatever, but just how that's going with those other 3, and is there any other ideas that we've got for these care leaves up to 25, and other little things that we can do just to make that transition for them easier? Thank you.
Yes, so I'm in direct contact with the 3 district councils who don't currently offer, and yet you're correct, South Kesteven do. So I'm not sure if I should name the other 3 district councils, but it's that they are working closely with me, and they're 3 district councils, if I just say, that align quite it's East Lindsey, Boston and South Holland. They're working with me right now because they're the 3 district councils that have aligned their services in many ways. They share services. So I'm working with one point of contact, and the contact so far has been really positive. They've been in touch with North Kesteven and South Kesteven. Both councils deliver that and offer that to our young people and our care leavers, and they're just mapping across now how they've done it so that they can introduce it to their services. And then, of course, it'll have to go through the political process, but I don't envisage any barriers at all. They're very positive about it. Speaking to the lead officer about it, they understand the connection between physical health, emotional health, well-being. If you're physically well, mentally well, you're able to get back into education, employment and training. They get the connection, they fully understand it, and we're just going through the process, really. And if there is any difficulty, then I'll probably speak to Heather Tara and Councillor Rowe about what we might be able to do to have a conversation if there is, but I don't envisage it at all. I've not needed to take it anywhere really other than the officers, and then to do a presentation to members to talk about the benefits of free leisure access, and that's got it across the line, so it's just part of the process. And in terms of future opportunities for additionality for care leavers, yeah, at the minute we've got the transformation, the improvement plan, we're focused on the improvement plan, and then of course we've got the insourcing process of the leaving care service, and alongside that we'll then look at all those extra bits once we've got those services in place. But yeah, there are further things I've got in my mind's eye that I'd really like to look at for young people, but of course there's a process to go through to get those across the line.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Now have Councillor Reid, followed by Councillor Rowe, and then Councillor Bradwell.
Thank you very much, Chairman. It's been a little while in my councillor journey that our excellent officer in Andrew Morris has been sort of out of my radar, but what's absolutely lovely to see, you always have a flag over your head in my book, and that is that young people are cared for and you have a real passion for it. So I feel that we should be moving forward to get our Ofsted rating improved with your good care. But equally, I'd like to say a really big thank you, Kerry, for Bernardo's as well, because you really, from what I understand, have really done it with a lot of dedication. I'm sure everybody else would like to say a big thank you to you for that.
Thank you, that's very kind.
And of course, talking about Ofsted, as I understand it, Ofsted are coming back not too soon from now. So there is a bit of a challenge to bring this one up to keep the outstanding flag for all of us as well. Quite separately, adding to the debate, if I may, for a second, Chairman, with Councillor Dilks and Councillor Whittington. My education as a councillor goes back to '96 when I used to be with Rutland in the old committee system. And you mentioned about young people with learning difficulties and needs to be supported till they're 25. It goes back in my estimation to a bit more fundamentally than that. We seem to be in an era at the moment where some parents think that they're actually getting extra support for their children if they need to be statemented. But what we do know, and I'm sure I understand correctly, is that when they might need that support, but if they can get into mainstream, then they get the opportunity of doing GCSEs, and then you get to the university. And it's very, very important that that message of that journey and the support along that way with people with children that have these difficulties. And there are some marvellous examples from infancy of how people with learning difficulties with support can get completely over them. And I'm sure we've all got stories to tell, but the most important one is that you know, they do get into mainstream and they can manage to get eligibility from successive exam results, and then they will move on, and then perhaps Andy can look after them at the other end. So it's really great. I've said enough, Chairman, perhaps. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to put a bit of sort of meat on some of the stuff that Andy spoke about. Andy and I have visited all bar one district council at the moment, including Boston and City of Lincoln. The last one, we're in the process of getting that arranged now. They've all been very positive. Wherever we've gone, the councils have fully supported everything we want to do. In my own district council, corporate parenting has been spoken about more by both the officers and by the councillors, and that's working extremely well. And I'm not quite sure where we go when we've done the lap. We could go again, yeah. Andy's happy to go again, and that has worked extremely well. We do consultation with all our cared for young people. We have what used to be called the big conversation, which is now V4C. I attended a couple of meetings recently. I've gone to all bar one, I think, where we're looking at ways of engaging the young people better and getting more information out of them. But the last one was very successful. We had a lot of people there. We would like just a bit more feedback from them. I also attended the go-karting event. I didn't think it was quite fair for me to ride on a go-kart. I didn't see what that go-kart had done wrong to suffer me. But it was great. The officers were involved with all the young people. They were getting forms filled out at a fantastic rate. The young people enjoyed it. And I think this is the way we need to go. We need to offer something that gets them there, because it's like my kids. They don't want to turn up to fill out a survey, but they would turn up to do an event, and that has worked extremely well. Then finally, just to assure Councillor Dilks, corporate parenting regularly look at employment, education and training. Councillor Matthews is all over it like a plague most of the time. He's certainly the education side is one of his favourites, and we look at it very, very closely, and we get reports on it all the time. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks very much for that added information to what's already been given by Andy. Councillor Mrs. Bradwell.
Yes, just quickly. I won't keep you that long, but I can understand why my colleagues ask questions, because actually sometimes you're not as close to our children who are in care as other members might be. And actually, you know, I think, you know, some of these young people, you do look at them sometimes and think, how have you grown? And you've got a job, or you're going to college because of, you know, the circumstances that they've been through at probably a very young age. So, you know, I do, you know, I just sit there with overwhelmed about how they are and the enthusiasm they have. What I just also wanted to say to you, though, here, my colleagues, that we'll have the Fab Awards soon, and I don't quite know when they are. 22nd of June. at the University in Lincoln, and we have a celebration day for all our young people and teenagers as well come along. Then we have a bit of lunch with them. And it is a great day because actually you can, you go around having chats with them, asking them what they're doing, and, sort of sometimes you get into what their aspirations are. And I don't know whether it was last year. I think it was last year, probably the year before. We had the young lady it was last year, who's abroad doing her degree. And actually, I had tears rolling down my face because, again, she's just on this career. I think she's doing law, isn't she? And yeah, just to listen to some of their, what they're doing, where they've got to is fantastic. So if any of you wanted to come along, we'll get an invite out if we'll have enough seats, I'm sure. But yeah, so I just would ask you to come because it does give you the opportunity to have a conversation, have a chat with them about, what they want to do, or, don't mention school because not a lot of them like school when they're younger. But do you know what I mean? I just find it lovely. So and I would encourage you to come if you can. Thank you.
Can I just say that the rotten people that organised the Fab Awards put me to speak directly after the young lady, and that just wasn't fair. Councillor Bradwell was right. She was phenomenal.
She was.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, I agree. She was a very difficult act to follow, but yeah, it's a very encouraging experience, I think, for anyone to attend, seeing the enthusiasm of the young people and the support that they get. Do we have any other questioners or comments to be made? No. I've just got one about the sort of improvement plan, Andy. What are the timescales for the improvement plan and the 5 work streams? Do you have a rough estimate on that one?
Yeah, so we're having bi-monthly meetings of the improvement board, which is chaired by myself, and the work streams, all the work streams have got work groups and kind of task and finish groups off them, and we're tracking the plans. So we're aiming for just the end of the year, November, December, to try and get the majority of this plan signed off. But what we are going to do is, although we're signing off the plan and the activity and the action stage potentially completed at that point, we're looking at how this improvement plan feeds into kind of service improvement in the future and becomes kind of actually business as usual, some of this activity around keeping an eye on data performance, EAT, core offer. So although a formal plan will stop at some point, the culture of what it's brought to us and how we've used it is going to continue in a new vein about in the new service and how we set it up about a service improvement plan or a service plan, not necessarily improvement, but how we maintain what we've achieved, because what we don't want to do is stop that. So hopefully the end of the year, which is where we need to really get to, and then what we'll do is embed some of this into business as usual processes.
That's great. Thanks very much. If we have no further comments, I shall move to the proposal, which is I propose that the committee has reviewed the report and is satisfied with the progress made with the Leaving Care Improvement Plan, and record our thanks and appreciation to Bernardo's for providing the Lincolnshire Leaving Care Service since 2001. And can I ask if you... Oh, Councillor Matthews have a comment to make? Quick off the mark there. Quick off the mark. Thank you very much. Can you please raise your hand if you agree with that proposal? Once again, I think we are unanimous. That is agreed. Thank you very much. And once again, thanks to Andy and Kerry for all the work that you've been doing and your teams. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 8, Children and Young People's Scrutiny Committee Work Programme. And this item sets out our work programme for 2024 to 25. And the report, as you'll no doubt see, is on pages 67 to 74 of your packs. And the actions required of us, as usual, are to review and agree the work programme as set out in this report, and to highlight for discussion any additional scrutiny activity which could be considered for inclusion in the work programme. And on that point, I would like to invite Tracy Johnson, Senior Scrutiny Officer, to present the report. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I just have one amendment to the published work programme report. That is, we have an additional report on the Stay Safe Partnership, which provides prevention education to all schools across Lincolnshire, and that will be added to the agenda for the 18th of October. The committee's next meeting is on the 19th of July, and there's currently 4 items listed for this agenda. The first one is to do with the Multi-Agency Youth Justice Plan, and this is part of the policy framework in the Constitution and will then go on for council decision on the 13th of September. There will also be the annual report on the holiday activities and food programme, the usual Q4 performance report, and at the moment there's also a pre-decision exempt item in relation to the new Lincolnshire Secure Children's Home build, the main works contract, and that's for, at the moment, prior to decision by the Executive on the 3rd of September. Otherwise, happy to take any suggestions, Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tracy. Do we have any questions or comments or suggestions for the programme in the future? No, everyone is happy as it. Oh, Councillor Reid.
Just one, Tracy. I think the youth justice plan, it's not just our remit, is it? It's so we must be mindful of that. And it needs the support of the other agencies besides. Thank you.
Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, this might be covered in the existing reports, but there's this national concern about the COVID cohort entering primary education for the first time this year, and I wonder if we can be kept up to date with as soon as possible, which clearly isn't going to be July, was going to be September. Can we track performance of that cohort through this committee as a special item, please?
Thank you. Yes, there's obviously been much comment in the media about the COVID impact on very young people and their moving to schools. Yeah, I think a note has been made of that. Yes, I'm getting nods. A note has been made of that, Councillor Matthews. So that's fine. Thanks very much. If there are no further comments, then thanks to Tracy for her work on that, and I would like to propose that the work programme is agreed. Could you raise your hand if you agree? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. That now concludes the business of the meeting. Once again, thank you very much to everyone for your involvement this morning and your comments and contributions, and I'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you very much.